All right, I'll begin shortly here. Normally I have like a 5-minute countdown for this show, but I figured since I'm live at the Irishman all this week, I wouldn't do a 5-minute countdown. So today, instead of doing this countdown, I decided I'm just going to eat the rest of what I've been eating, which is fantastic here at the Irishman Pub at Preston and Frankfurt. If you're in the area, come hang out. Half off appetizers. They have a fantastic menu here at the Irishman. And what I'm eating is the Prego roll. You can see it right there. Yeah. Marinated New York strips on a Portuguese garlic buttered roll. It is damn good. And I'm going to eat it in front of you in a second here just to really soak it in and how good it is. But also post your comments. Hit the share button. Do whatever it is you do. I don't want to just sit here and continue to hamper on some of the discussions we had yesterday. We can kind of move on to the Giants, but also I would also like to comment on Jerry Jones's comments on the Fan this morning, and why I think if you're a Cowboy fan that doesn't really care for Jason Garrett, those are good comments. And then Stephen Jones calling Troy Aikman a armchair quarterback, which is hilarious because he's Troy Aikman. But here's my Prego roll that I'm eating. So give me a second while I continue to eat this. Mm. Mm. That's good. Kerry Teagle in the house. He says, "What's up, Ari?" Kerry, cheers. How's it going, man? Eric Koshaney. Chris Bennett. This is 17 years ago. Never forget. Absolutely. 9/11, a day, obviously, that when you wake up every morning on September 11th, you always think about it. So, cheers. Never forget. What else we got? Let's see. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page. Streaming live on the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page. And again, I'm streaming across multiple pages and platforms and channels. The quickest way to have your comments read would be through facebook.com/watchphantom. Facebook.com/watchphantom. All right, let's see. On the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page, Hugo Herrera gives me the thumbs up. Also, Tim Mariano says we should believe Jerry LMAO. Been believing since last Super Bowl. Marcus Turner gives me the thumbs up too. You don't believe Jerry when he basically talked about how Norv Turner is old, and yet he was able to figure out ways to get Cam Newton out in space. If you heard Jerry on with 105 through the Fan this morning, the station that I host the pre and post game show for the Dallas Cowboys on, he basically lifted up Carolina's offense and their play calling and denigrated the Cowboys in that way. So, all right, on the Big Game James page, let's see here. Checking on the comments on the Big Game James page. All right, nobody's over there. Kerry Teagle says, from Houston to New York, you a cool dude even though we disagree on Rico. What do you mean, Kerry? We disagree on Rico? Hey, my father-in-law's here. You want to say hi? Make sure to use the half-off coupon. Half-off appetizers coupon with the event. Thank you. You don't want to say hello to the camera? Cheers. This is Community IPA. I think Margot will be here soon, too. And perhaps Asher. And my audience loves what Asher gets on camera too, so that'll be cool. We'll get some good Dallas Cowboys analysis from my 2.5-year-old, soon to be 3-year-old son. Asher, what kind of questions should I ask me? Whatever you want to ask. Well, let's talk about the Cowboys. What do you want to know about the Cowboys? That's fair. My father-in-law says the Cowboys could not move the football at all, which is a fair statement. I think yesterday, though, was kind of reserved for the myopic, like the sky is falling. And while I still feel like, yeah, there should be major concerns, look, let's just hope that this week they play at home, they're able to correct some of their issues. The Giants have a decent defense, but not nearly as good as Carolina's. So perhaps Dak will look better. Their offensive play calling will be married more in line with Dak's skill set, and they'll have a better approach. I think that's at least, again, in football, it's so overreactive because they play once a week, and when you lose, you feel like you'll never win, and it appears like you'll never win. And when you win, it appears like you'll never lose. So, I just think that's part of, part of every week reaction in the NFL. All right, let's see here. Broadcasting live on YouTube as well via the Law Nation page as well as the Watch Phantom page. Make sure, if you're not, to subscribe to both the Law Nation page and the Watch Phantom page. By the way, I highly recommend Joseph. I highly recommend the Prego roll. This is what I'm eating. It's fantastic. We're out at the Irishman Pub, as you can see, Preston and Frankfurt. So come hang out with us. I'm here all week from 12 to 1. So, again, if you live in the area, I know a lot of people stream this all over the world. Joe Tranchina's in Sicily, Italy, streaming this every day. So I appreciate everybody who's out of the area and perhaps out of the country as well that streams this and interacts. But if you're in the area, if you live in DFW, come hang out. I'm here all week, again. And if you click on the link in the description of this video on Facebook, you get half-off appetizers here. They've got over 30 beers on tap, great beer selection, and fantastic food. I mentioned this yesterday, but like normally you talk about bar food, it's kind of an afterthought, truthfully, right? But in this place, like yesterday, this place was swimming with people that had to-go orders. Like, and that I think speaks volumes of the type of food they have here at the Irishman Pub. So, again, the fact that people have to-go orders here, normally people come in, they drink at a bar, but having to-go orders at a bar, like that speaks to how good the bar is. Sean Moore says, better than anything Jera says to the media. What is that in reference to, buddy? All right, on the Law Nation YouTube page, My Cowboys Family in the House, MCF. When will OC Scott Linehan speak to the media and answer for his crappy calls and lack of prep for our offensive line? Later this week. In fact, I can give you the exact day of that since I have the full slate of media schedule for the Dallas Cowboys this week. Let's see here. The coordinators will talk Thursday at 1:15. So Thursday afternoon at 1:15. Cheers. Did you get the community IPA? Cheers. So Scott Linehan and Rod Marinelli will speak to the media at 1:15 on Thursday, and you better bet I'll be there. My Cowboys Family says, hope Asher's feeling better. He going to be a Cowboy fan? I'm not sure. We'll see. Probably. It's funny because he knows what I do, and so he'll always be like, Cowboys? Cowboys? And we were at, like, Tom Thumb, and he's like, Cowboys? Cowboys? So it's going to be hard for him not to become a Cowboy fan, growing up in this city especially. And my guess is if you're looking for, like, tremendous answers from Scott Linehan, I mean, you're going to get a lot of what you got from Jason Garrett yesterday, which is, I actually tweeted out a quote from Jason Garrett that was hilarious yesterday. And that was, let me see if I could find the quote. It was basically, like, because he was being pressed about being conservative, and so he basically said something along the lines of, I wouldn't classify two tight ends and a fullback as being conservative, which it's like, yeah, it is. It's different, but it's certainly not. Or perhaps it's not conservative, but it's dumb, especially when, your two tight ends are not like Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham, especially when your two tight ends are Jeff Swaim and Blake Jarwin, who are not necessarily known as tremendous playmakers. All right, we're broadcasting live on the EBSN Online page. Go check out EBSN Online. They do some fantastic work, along with the Silver and Blue Nation and the Big Game James page. Producer G, Gary Likens, and Big Game James over there. Robert Mathis gives me the thumbs up, and Joseph Heron says, what did Jerry say? So Jerry, I talked about it a little bit earlier. Jerry was on with 105 through the Fan this morning, as he is every Tuesday morning during football season, Sean and RJ. And he said that he basically talked about how good the Carolina offense looked, and that, Norv Turner's he basically said Norv Turner's old and been around, and he's been sort of seen as an old guard offensive coordinator, but somehow he was able to figure out ways to get Cam Newton to run the football, and he, in doing that, he was denigrating the Cowboys' offensive play calling. And I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but if you hear it, I mean, again, he is definitely lifting up the Carolina Panthers offense and their schemes and what they did, and denigrating the Dallas Cowboys. And so, to me, anybody that believes that the Cowboys are not going to fire Jason Garrett, after this season, or fire Scott Linehan mid-season if this offensive ineptitude continues, is sorely mistaken. And look at Jerry's comments this morning as evidence of they're just not going to sit around and wait for this team to figure out the offense. And if they get it in week 2, then great. But if they don't and these things continue, I mean, the first change would be an offensive coordinator. And Jason was asked yesterday about, could you see yourself calling plays? And, he basically said he's got the utmost faith in Scott Linehan, because, of course, that's what he's going to say. But, I mean, do not put that past the Dallas Cowboys, truthfully. That could very well happen. The first change, could be in season. And it could be the firing of Scott Linehan, the team's offensive coordinator. Asher's in the house, by the way. Now, he came unaccompanied, a 2.5-year-old at a bar by himself. That's weird. I don't know how he got here. All right, what else is everybody saying? Sean Moore says we have to do quotes. We have to do better. Hold on, here, come here, Asher. Let's see you, buddy. Hey. Oh, hey, here he is. What do you think? What do you think about the Cowboys, Asher? All right, go find mommy. Quick cameo. All right. Yeah, we have to do. Sean Moore says we have to do better. I cannot listen to the Jason Garrett press conferences. They're just awful. If you checked my tweet from yesterday at Ari Sports. I literally turned on the presser. I heard these words. I wouldn't classify two tight ends and a fullback as conservative, and then I turned it off. And that was my tweet, and that was actually what happened. I literally turned it on, heard I wouldn't classify two tight ends and a fullback as conservative, and then I turned it off. John Dyer says, did anybody ask him if he regrets not giving preseason snaps to Tyron, Zeke, Sean Lee, etc.? That's because I only turned it on for a brief period of time. I'm willing to bet that somebody said something to that effect. And my guess is it was some answer about, we need to play better and we need to do better. But, at the end of the day, we felt the health of our team was more important than anything else. And that's what we did. I don't know. But I'm sure that's what he said. All right, let's see here. Back to the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Shout out to Joe Tranchina, my buddy watching in Sicily. Buonasera, Joe Tranchina. Curtis Stark says, we didn't throw a deep pass once in the game. What does that say? It has been attributable by the Cowboys to both scheme and quarterback. Jason sort of put a lot of it on Dak, but that's where we were at a lot of last season, and it's where we are after week 1. And again, look, we can sit here. Here's the problem with Jason Garrett as a coach, and this explains why they looked so bad. They go into a game with a game plan. If that game plan doesn't work, they're screwed. They're not going to change it. We've already heard that from Jason Garrett and Rod Marinelli and their brass. Rod Marinelli literally had a quote that said that he loses respect for people that change their mind on those kinds of things. He literally said that. like, you know how, and I talked about this yesterday, like, you know how the principle of evolve or die in business is important? Rod Marinelli literally said that he loses respect for people that vacillate. So Jason Garrett feels the same way because he doesn't ever vacillate or change or do anything that evolves or adapts. So, like, the Cowboys go into a game with a game plan. If that game plan doesn't work, then it looks like yesterday. It looks awful. But if the game plan works, it looks good. And so I guess I'm reserving judgment on the future of this team, offensively speaking, because, like, we'll see if it works next week. But, like, the problem is they went into a game with a game plan. You know, I think they wanted to do short passes, get the ball out quick because they wanted to neutralize, you know, Carolina's ability to rush the passer. It didn't work because Luke Kuechly is really, really good at making sure-handed tackles at that second level. And so it was like they couldn't do anything beyond that. Once that failed, they did nothing to evolve or change their game plan in any capacity because that's Jason Garrett. You win and you die with one game plan. So, you know, that's the we couldn't throw the ball down deep. Well, and Garrett said it after the game or said it yesterday, something to the effect of, you know, the long drops, we didn't want to put ourselves in position to take sacks and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, they want, like, their East-West game plan was by design. They wanted to get the ball out quickly, West Coast offense, and you know, neutralize the Carolina pass rush that way. I think the problem was, one, you're not getting into the second level consistently or past the second level consistently when Luke Kuechly is back there. But the other piece to that, which is really important, is you know, that they had a couple of holding penalties early on in drives. Like, if you think about that first drive, which they had a big play, it was called back by a holding penalty. A couple of big plays on the East-West passing game that were called back. And, again, I mean, that shouldn't be an excuse, but that's where they're at. Ryan Ariano says, no more excuses. If the stagnant offense continues, we need a change. Curtis Starks says, fire Scott and Jason. Kevin Bludso says, so what, another season lost? I mean, again, I think if they have a good game plan going in, they'll win and they'll look good. But if they don't, like against Carolina, then they're going to struggle. But also remember, as bad as their offense looked, and it was horrible, they still were in position down the stretch to win that football game. Now, granted, maybe that's fool's gold because you just can't play that inept offensively for that long period of time and expect to win the football game. Ian Goldberg asks, do you think that Dak had issues in fear throwing deep to his tight ends? Yeah, I mean, you know, I think Dak was inconsistent. You know, he missed Rod Smith on a check down. You know, he missed Blake Jarwin, which was the most obvious miss of the game for him. So certainly Tim Flynn says, let's bring Des Bryant back. It's not going to happen, Tim. You know, even if it was in consideration for happening, you know, he burned all of his bridges by the comments that he made. And I don't even think Dez would be interested in coming back. Joe Tranchina says, after what you saw Sunday, do you think we still make the playoffs? No. No. But it's a long season, and I predicted they'd go 10-6 and make the playoffs, so I'm going to stick with it. But no. Neil Favre in the house. What's up, Neil Favre? Susie Henry Curlin says we need a tough coach, and Jason is too busy clapping for that. It's a fair point. But again, going back to what Jerry Jones said this morning, like if you are of the belief that Jerry's not going to fire Jason Garrett, that's wrong. They're not going to continue. Like, the first step would be firing Scott Linehan, and that could happen mid-season if this offense continues. And if they fail to make the playoffs and they if they fail to make the playoffs, Jason Garrett's going to be gone after the season. So again, you know, what we saw Sunday was unacceptable. Jerry made comments this morning on 105 through the Fan that indicated that. So that's week one for him to say that, which means this thing doesn't pick up in the next few weeks. Scott Linehan's going to be in the chopping block. I have no doubt in my mind based on what Jerry Jones said this morning. Sean Morris says, Cowboys mentality, beat the man in front of you times 100 million. I don't have time. Is that 100 million or 100 billion? I don't have time to count the number, to count the zeros in there, Sean. Can you just write it out next time? Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Cowboys mentality is we just have to execute and do what we do, and if we do that, we'll beat you. which there's probably some schematics involved there, too. I'm Ari Temkin. We're live on Phantom, the new world order of sports media. If you didn't know, you can catch me doing the pre- and post-game show for every Cowboys game along the Dallas Cowboys radio network and locally in DFW on 105.3 The Fan. You might notice behind me a sign that says The Irishman. I'm at the Irishman Pub. If you live in DFW, come hang out. There is a event tab in the description that gives you half-off appetizers here at the Irishman Pub all week while I'm here. 12 to 1 every day this week I'm out here. So come say hi, come say hello, and join me at the Irishman Pub where they've got fantastic food. And I have not forgotten about my Prego roll. You got something else? Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Irish tacos. Yeah. So my father-in-law is asking me to bring up the defense, which was played superb. And I don't think there's any question about that. And this sort of goes back to, something we've been saying, which is, the Cowboys throughout the preseason and training camp talked about, well, just wait and see on the offense. Because what we saw was not very inspiring. And what we saw in week 1 was not very inspiring from the offense. But the defense, all training camp, all preseason, looked like it was going to be not only much better than we've seen from this defense in a long time, probably since Wade Phillips was here, but that it was going to be, it was going to be what carried this team. And that's, again, sometimes the proof is in how you practice. It's, that's, I think, something that's really important to note. Like, a lot of times you practice like you play like you practice. And, the defense all throughout practicing and training camp looked really good. The offense didn't, and it didn't really matter who was on the field, and that mentality carried into week 1. Now, again, if the defense continues to play the way it did, and you expect it will, and by the way, Sean Lee didn't play particularly well. He missed a couple of open field tackles that he's, always going to make. So even with how well the defense played, there's still major room for improvement. Wade Zetterberg is in the house. What's up, Wade Zetterberg? Diego Maestas says, what do you think about moving Lyle Collins to left guard and Fleming to right tackle? I'll be honest. I don't think – so my eyes saw Connor Williams get beat a few times, right? But at the same time, he played every snap and, had to go up against K'Wan Short the entire time, and I thought played pretty well. Thank you. And so, I guess I don't think that Connor Williams played as bad as everybody believes that he did. And I will say this. I haven't yet had time to look at the All-22, but I'm hoping that that verifies it. So the long answer is no. They're not going to make any massive changes to the offensive line until we're at least a month into this season. And even then, Connor Williams was going up, and a lot of times on an island, one-on-one against one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL, and K'Wan Short. So it was a tough matchup for him, in his first ever NFL start. And though he got worked a few times, I thought overall he played pretty well, considering the circumstance. And again, Brian Broaddus basically said he played 65 snaps, played really poorly on 3 of them, but really well on 62 of them. He's a rookie. He's going to get better. I don't think it would be in the best interest of the Cowboys to make, crazy wholesale changes after 1 week, especially 1 week where he's going up against one of the best interior rushers in the National Football League. All right, let's see here. If you're watching this, thank you for doing so. I'm Ari Temkin. This is a daily stream I do at 12 noon called Showtime. If you're watching this for the first time, nice to meet you. And make sure to join this every day, 12 noon, Monday through Friday, right here on Phantom, Facebook.com/Watch Phantom. Phantom is the new world order of sports media. Wade Zetterberg says, K'Wan, boiler up. Absolutely. Tim Hasty in the house. What up, Tim Hasty? He says, what's up, Ari? What up, Tim? How are you, buddy? On the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Let's see what the comments are flowing in there. Keith Stone says, yeah, Lee looked super rusty. Any insight to that? No. I know Jason Garrett gave Christian McCaffrey's tough to tackle, and these guys, it's like, yeah, but Sean Lee doesn't miss tackles. So, let's just at least, Keith, until we see it continue, say it's an anomaly and not something that normally happens, and the cyborg that is Sean Lee will get it corrected. But, yeah, you know, considering how well the defense played, and they still could have played considerably better, I mean, that should make you really optimistic about what this team is capable of on the defensive side of the football. Ryan Ariano says Connor learned a good lesson, leave him next to Tyron. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we know that he needs to bulk up. And we know that he's going to struggle at times, but I think, again, given the circumstances, he played pretty well. You know, there were a few drives in particular that stood out, but for the most part, I mean, I'll say this: I didn't see anything that leads me to believe they need to make a change. And I will also say, as far as Cameron Fleming is concerned, like, I didn't see anything in training camp through the preseason that, like, all I need to find a spot for him. Erica Bazabilvazo. Sometimes at some point, Erica, I'll get your last name. Erica Bazabilvazo says we should have gotten Will Hernandez. I wasn't for it in the beginning, but the kid is a beast, and we'll see him against the Giants next week, right? The Giants are the ones that drafted him. Let's give it a little bit of time on Connor Williams. Again, I thought Brian Broaddus, I trust his scouting. He said he got beat pretty badly on 3 snaps, but 62 other snaps looked really good. So, and again, I mean, if he got beat on 10 snaps, you know, it's not as good as just getting beat on 3 snaps, but you're going up against K'Wan Short. Again, this guy can play. Tommy Wheeler says we had a mediocre draft this year. That could very well be the case, but I also think, like, you got to judge drafts 2-3 years after the fact. I mean, you'll even see drafts. Sometimes guys they flash early and have really good rookie seasons, and then never do anything after that. So, I mean, look at Anthony Brown. You know, everybody figured that Anthony Brown was a splash deep in the draft for the Cowboys a couple of years ago, and then he had a really bad year last year, and now the jury remains out on him. So that's why when it comes to assessing drafts, you honestly have to wait 2-3 years before you can make a legitimate sort of proclamation about how good or bad that draft was. But to your point, I mean, Leighton Vander Esch played a little bit, but he's not. I mean, for a first-round pick, he looks about as good as Taco Charlton did last year. Connor Williams, the second-round pick, who I like. Gallup, you know, it takes time for receivers, guys. We just can't have these ridiculous expectations. I'll continue to make this point. The last 1,000-yard rusher, the last 1,000-yard receiver as a rookie in the NFL was Amari Cooper, and it was in 2015, and he was the 15th overall pick. Gallup is a third-round pick. I mean, DJ Moore was a first-round pick, and did DJ Moore do anything in Week 1? Bill Grobe says Dak sucks. We need a new GM, head coach, and quarterback. Okay. So at least Bill is not jumping off the bandwagon yet. Antonio Leyva Jr. says we need to get better on offense. Antonio, I think everybody agrees with you. There's no question about that. Randy Thomas says Dak had nowhere to throw. You know, and this sort of goes back to that same thing, which is the Cowboys wanted this receiving corps. This is the receiving corps they said they wanted. You know, they didn't want a legit number one who they could line up at the X and win at the line of scrimmage. That's what they said. They don't want that. So, you know, this is what they said they wanted. All right, on the Phantom page on Facebook, Kerry Teagle says, how ironic we miss Dez right now. Let's hope that the rest of the season doesn't remain that way for the Cowboys. Kerry Teagle also says that Vander Esch looked lost out there. Wade Zetterberg says, hell, Brady went the whole half in Week 2 of the preseason. And I'm trying to think, like, the Cowboys' offense actually, like, Dak Prescott played the entire first half of Week 2 of the preseason. And they tried to go, to be fair, with their full offense for the entire first half of Week 2 of the preseason, but that's when Zach Martin got hurt. So, you know, I mean, the Cowboys did try to do that. But then they scaled it back, but Zeke Elliott didn't play, so that's one exception to it. But, you know, to me, it just goes back to this idea of everybody kept saying, especially from the Cowboys coaching, like, wait and see. And I guess blame me because I bought it, but it was, I guess, because I had seen some semblance of creativity in training camp, I kind of bought that they would be a little bit different and more creative offensively, and we obviously didn't see much of it in Week 1. I'm Ari Temkin. We're broadcasting live from the Irishman Pub here at Preston and Frankfurt and Preston Road in Richardson. So if you're in the area, come say hi. Come enjoy some great food. They have fantastic food here. It is incredibly good. So if you click on the link in the description, there's a link that will give you a coupon for half off appetizers all week while we're here. So come get half off appetizers here at the Irishman Pub, again at Preston and Frankfurt in that shopping center there. And come say hi to me. Neil Fowler says, why get Earl Thomas now? Defense is good to go. It's offensive play calling that are the issues. Sure. But, I'm going to continue to make this point. 1 second. Hold on. Huh? This is Dallas, not Richardson? I stand corrected. We're not in Richardson. We're in Dallas. So Preston and Frankfurt, just outside Richardson, just outside Plano, on Preston and Frankfurt. I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere. I'm at Preston and Frankfurt Road at the Irishman Pub. Come hang out. I don't know what municipality I'm in. I don't know if I get pulled over, which police officers are gonna give me a ticket potentially, but I guess it's Dallas. Okay. Don't make any drastic conclusions about this team after 1 week. Don't make any drastic conclusions about any team after 1 week. You just can't do that in the NFL. You have to judge. You have to judge based on a month, 4 weeks. That's a quarter of the season. So, if something happens 1 week, it could be an anomaly. If something happens over the course of a quarter of the season, that's a trend. That's something you could say, this is this team. So when it comes to Earl Thomas, and again, I think going into this year, we should have felt pretty confident that this defense was going to be good, independent of Earl Thomas. But I still think that doesn't mean you don't go in and invest in a guy like Earl Thomas. That's just my belief. If you have a chance, to improve it. I mean, look at the Rams. Did the Rams say, "Oh, we don't need to get Sue. Our defense is already good enough. We don't need to go and get Marcus Peters. Our defense is already good enough." No, I mean, if you have a chance to dominate on one of the lines of scrimmage, then do it. And especially, look at what the Rams did. The Rams have a very creative, very smart head coach on the offensive side of the ball, and then they just invested a ton of money into their defense. But they have a rookie quarterback and a rookie deal, and it's not like they've got any big-time receivers taking up huge amounts of cap space. They spent all their money on the defensive side of the ball. Like they've said, we're going to be smart and creative offensively, and we're going to be good offensively, and we're going to be dominant on defense. That's the type of team they put together. Anthony Donaldson in the house is 25, 8, 366. What up, Anthony Donaldson? Wade Zetterberg says, Ari said the drinks are on him if you show up. Sure. Yeah, you come out, I'll buy you a couple of drinks. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and have 15 drinks with you and buy them all. I mean, I'm not made of money, but I'll buy you a few drinks if you come on out and say hello to me. Nathan Kerman says, Happy New Year. Shana Tava, Nathan. Thank you. John Dyer says, Cowboys always come out flat due to how they treat the preseason. Perhaps. Let's see here. Back to the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. Curtis Stark says, if our offense plays like that again, Sunday night will be 0-2. Sure, of course, no question. Ryan Ariano says, we're judging based on a team looking exactly the same minus 2 former Pro Bowlers. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? I mean, again, I think it is you are completely within your right, and not just within your right, but I mean, it's completely reasonable to, overreact to last week, to the game. That's perfectly reasonable. It was horrible. Dak did not play well. Their play calling was horrible. They were completely outmatched in almost every single way on offense. But, that's the MO of Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys. They have a game plan. They go into a game. If the game plan doesn't work, that's it. Like, that's what they got. They take the one shot they've got. If they don't have it, they continue to stick with it because they believe that changing and evolving, that's cowardly. That's not the right thing to do. And that's fundamentally wrong. But that's, so – like, you could explain away the issues and say it could get better next week because perhaps they'll have a better game plan and maybe they won't be so – and now, the Giants are a team that they probably will be concerned themselves with, getting the ball out quickly. But I think their game plan against the Carolina Panthers was get the ball out quickly. They didn't want to put Dak in too many deep drops. And, like, that's why we saw them basically complete the majority of their passes east-west, nothing down the field in any capacity whatsoever because they were worried about the Carolina front seven getting to them. And they didn't evolve within the game because they don't do that. They don't change. It's just their game plan going in. That's what it is. Tim Hasty says, my brisket was the highlight of Sunday. I mean, and I'm sure your brisket was delicious, Tim. Did you smoke it? Did you smoke your brisket? Are you a smoker? And by that I mean, on the grill, not, cigarettes. But did you smoke your brisket? And if you did, how long? And can I have some next time? Eric Kashani says, Ari's mad at me. He keeps skipping over my comments. What's up, Ari? Let's talk this out. I am not. I appreciate that, buddy. What's a cop doing at an Irish pub? Is he on the job? No. I didn't say there was a cop here. I was simply saying that I didn't know exactly. There's a bunch of, municipalities around the Dallas area. It's, I live in Plano, which is not Dallas. It's Plano, obviously. But then there's Richardson. I thought we were in Richardson, but we're not. We're actually in Dallas, so that was all I was saying. And I'm not skipping over your comments, buddy. It's just bad. It's a bad look on my part. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to overcorrect with Eric and just basically read everything he says. True, I do it all the time. Jerry Powell says, holding the Panthers to 16 points in their own backyard was monumental for this young Dallas defense. That's a good point. I did it again. No, I didn't. What do you mean? Ryan Ariano says, JG's lack of scheme has been masked by having a veteran quarterback to the last 2 years. You don't smoke on a grill. You smoke on a smoker. Good point. That's fair, but then what do you say about Dak's rookie year? Ryan, I think that's a fair thing to say, and I wouldn't completely disagree with you. I mean, when Tony Romo was the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, he was their offensive play caller. So, it wasn't exactly Jason. It was Jason Garrett's schemes, but it was Romo executing the offense. I also think, by the way, that's part of the reason that Jason was so willing to get rid of Tony Romo and go to Dak, because he thought that would give him an opportunity to take back the offense. But I also think, that what? Yeah. True. But so much of the success or lack thereof is due to scheming and play calling, and I think in football it's probably different than most sports. Huh? An ego, yeah, sure. But then again, Ryan, based on that premise, how do you explain away Dak's rookie year? Which to Jason, even if I'm not a big Jason Garrett fan, but you've got to at least give him credit for that season. And maybe that was just the anomaly. They caught people off guard. They just caught lightning in a bottle for 1 year schematically, and maybe that's just the truth about it. But I'm not entirely sure. All right, I'm back on the Law Nation YouTube page. Shout out to all you folks watching on the Law Nation YouTube page. Boomer Sooner says, let up the box and stop Saquon and leave Odell one-on-one. How do we stop the Giants' offense? He says, let up the box, stop Saquon, and leave Odell one-on-one. No, I mean, I think I could see that. But I also think, what was their defensive game plan last week? I mean, they got after the quarterback a lot more than we've seen Rob Marinelli's defenses do that. So I think their linebackers played so well, and that's such a huge piece of this because getting past the first level is one thing, but turning medium gains into big gains is based on the ability to get past that second level in their linebackers, and that's why I think their linebackers played so well last week. So I think again, until Saquon breaks one deep, getting past their linebackers, I think the Cowboys are going to let their linebackers sort of funnel. They're going to funnel everything to Sean Lee as they have in the past, and then until they sort of make them change that, that's what they're going to do, and not probably leave their safeties or their corners on an island against Odell Beckham. Let's see here. What else is everybody saying? And Boomer Sooner says Giants wide receivers aren't like Carolina's. No, that's true. I mean, Sterling Shepard is the second wide receiver. He's number 2 on the Giants, and he would be number 1 on Carolina. That's fair. Let's see here. My Cowboys family says it was Dak and Zeke show that took over unexpectedly in 2016. Sure, but again, I mean, you've got to at least attribute some of their success that year to, to scheming. And again, I'm not a Jason Garrett fan by any means, but you have to at least give some credence to the way that Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan got a rookie quarterback ready to go and win some football games. But I mean, it was a perfect storm of great offensive line mixed with a quarterback that kind of caught everybody by surprise in that RPO, the run pass option. Team Ortiz Boxing says, if we go 0-3, does Garrett get fired midseason? I don't think, unless this thing goes completely off the rails, I don't see any circumstance in which Jason Garrett gets fired midseason. However, and this is what I said earlier in this stream, it is definitely not outside of the realm of possibility that Scott Linehan does. And if this team starts 0-4, then I think that's when they would fire Linehan and basically have Jason Garrett take over as the play caller. But in absent of starting 0-4 and having their offense in 4 weeks look as bad as it's looked in week 1, I don't know if there's anything else that would cause that to happen. Let's see here. My wife says we just ordered the chicken and waffles. My wife's in the house here at the Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt. 0-3 won't get – Wade Zetterberg says 0-3 won't get him fired. You're talking about Garrett. I don't think they'll fire Garrett midseason in any way, unless they go 0-10 or 1-11 like Wade Phillips in 2010. But I do think they would fire Linehan. Tim Hasty says, watch the Odell versus Jalen video on YouTube. The Giants should have won that game. Eli missed Odell for 2 touchdowns. Yeah. I think what we saw in week 1 from the Giants was more of what we saw from Eli Manning last season, which is a major aggression. It's not like Eli's been great, but he certainly did not look good. I mean, as bad as Dak looked, Eli looked worse. And at least with Dak, you've got the athleticism. Jerry Oldiker on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page says, everyone knows Zeke is running. Anyone can stop him, and with 9 in the box and no number 1 receiver. Well, I'll go to the famed play that everybody wants to talk about, which is, the Cowboys had a 2nd and 17, and Carolina on a 2nd and 17, which is traditionally a passing down. Carolina instead lined up everybody in the box and had, the Cowboys had 2 receivers split out wide, and they had one-on-one matchups on the outside with them, and they didn't audible out of it. They just ran right into the teeth of a 9-man front with 2 corners split out wide with one-on-one matchups. And that's the maddening piece if you're the Cowboys. If you're a Cowboys fan, the maddening piece is that you've got to take your shots there. That's what we talk about when it's scheme and quarterback. Either Dak didn't read the defense right, or Dak didn't know where to go. I don't know what else to say other than you just can't. If they put 90 men in the box on a 2nd and 17, you've got a run play, and you've got 2 receivers split out wide with one-on-one matchups, and it's not like you've got Jalen Ramsey out there in those matchups, then you've got to exploit those matchups. And the fact that they just ran into it either says they're not having him audible out of plays. Somebody's got to see that and change the play. It's maddening if you're a Cowboy fan. Let's see here. JP Trimmer says if we put pressure on Eli, he's going to give us the ball a few times. And I think, again, a lot to be excited about defensively, a lot to not be excited about offensively, but still room for growth. Defensively, we saw a lot of things we liked, not just based on the personnel and how well they played, but also they blitzed a lot. We don't usually see Rod Marinelli in the cover 2, Tampa 2 defense is not necessarily a blitzing defense and hasn't ever been. And as long as Rod Marinelli's been here, he's never ultra aggressive when it comes to blitzing quarterbacks. And they blitz Cam a lot. And you hope that continues week 2 against the New York Giants because, they have the type of defense that can make up for it at the back end with their corners because they're pretty good. And on top of that, they've got a really good pass rush. And that's, teams are going to try to neutralize the Cowboys' pass rush by running the football. So the way you do that, you sack the quarterback and you put them in downs and situations where they've got to throw it. Randy Thomas wants to know if I've got an update on Randy Gregory. They're nothing. I guess at this point, just think that no update is good. Is a good update. Nothing is good. Stephen Jones was on the Fan, 105 through the Fan yesterday, basically said, like, we haven't heard anything. So apparently there's members of the media that know more about the situation than we do. So I guess just operate under the assumption that no news is good news when it comes to the Randy Gregory situation, because, again, if Randy Gregory's on a very short leash, so if he did anything to compromise, the pieces of reinstatement, then I just don't understand why the NFL would let him play in Week 1. And if they still haven't made any mention or comments about it, like, I don't know if they're waiting for Thursday. I mean, but I guess at this point, it's hard to believe that in August he would have failed the drug test or he would have done something that hurt his reinstatement, and the NFL would still let him play in Week 1. Like, that's hard to believe, considering the NFL's history. Ryan Ariano says Sunday will be an ugly defensive game. Eli will turn the ball over. And the other thing, too, is, it sucks to lose games, and it sucks to lose games in the NFC against NFC teams. But, you want to win your division, you win the games in your division. And so it's not like it was a division game. So they have a divisional game coming up on Sunday. That's a bigger game because, you win the majority of games in your division, you're most likely going to win that division. And especially when it comes to the Giants are 0-1, so whoever loses this game is now 0-2 and 0-1 in the division, so in bad shape when it comes to the playoff picture. So, it's not a must-win, obviously. It's a joke to call it that Week 2, but you put yourself in pretty good position after losing Week 1 and looking horrible to win this game, and then put the Giants in a really bad spot, starting off the season 0-2 and now 0-1 in the division. Let's see here. Sean Moore says, how pathetic is that? The media has given news before the clubs. I hope it's a lie. And that's, it's hard. It was Adam Schefter. Like, a couple of weeks ago it was Jason Lockett-Fora, but it's Adam Schefter. I mean, when he says something, it's usually fact. So, now maybe the Cowboys are just saying that. But, again, I think all we've heard is that Cowboys don't know anything, and we haven't, they didn't suspend him, despite the fact that Schefter reported that he missed a drug test. I'm not really even sure what he exactly reported specific to this situation, but it's just hard for me to believe that the NFL, especially when it comes to how closely they're monitoring the Randy Gregory situation, that they would let him play Week 1 if there really was an ongoing situation with him. Dana Brenning says, what's up, Ari? What's going on, Dana? How are you? Eric Kashani says, Linehan is so far out of touch, it's pitiful. Time for him to go to the nursing home. And Eric, if you'd like to see that, then root for them to go 0-4. Because I don't have any specific knowledge of this situation, but if the Cowboys start 0-4, Linehan's going to get fired. If the Cowboys start 0-4, Scott Linehan is going to be fired. Wade Zetterberg says all games are must-wins. Sure, but I think must-wins are actually when you literally must-win, otherwise you're out of the playoff picture kind of thing. Like, that's, if you have to win, otherwise if you lose, you're out of the playoffs, then that's a must-win. But sure, in the abstract, every game is a must-win. Sean Moore says, no, it's pretty much a must-win. I don't think you can underestimate the gravity of what a loss. Yeah, again, I'm of the belief that must-wins are literally must-wins, but two teams with, two teams that were optimistic about the season. You don't want to start 0-2 and 0-1 in the division, and especially with how bad the offense looked in Week 1. If this offense looks that bad in Week 2, then, again, you don't want to judge 1 week by itself, but you want to judge based upon what happens over the course of a month. I think a quarter of the season is good judgment, but you start 0-2 with this offense, and now you're starting to see a trend with Dak Prescott and the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. Dakota Stiegel says, why wait till 0-4? Well, because, you're just not going to fire a coach after one game. Because you're not. Because you're not going to be successful in any way if you fire a coach after one game. And they should have, if they were that, if they had that much, if they didn't have that much, if they lacked that much confidence in him that they shouldn't have made him their offensive coordinator. Hell, they even doubled down on Scott Linehan. They made Kellen Moore his guy, the quarterback's coach. So, Eric Kashani says if the Giants beat us, it won't be just one loss, it'll be two. Dana Brenning says we should stay with the run game. Yes. To me, I just don't understand why the Cowboys aren't getting Zeke Elliott more involved in the passing game. Like, this is a guy that's a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. Like, somebody tweeted at me that during the game, because I said something about that, like, what does Zeke Elliott have to do to get involved in the passing game? Somebody tweeted at me, like, well, he's not really good as a pass catcher. Like, that's not right. That's false. That is a false statement. Like, go watch his film at Ohio State. Zeke is, like, the reason they took him 4th overall is because, like, you wouldn't take a running back 4th overall who's not a good pass catcher. Otherwise, you'd be completely and utterly stupid. He's in the same vein of Todd Gurley when it comes to that kind of a playmaker, as far as running, catching, and blocking. He's that good in all 3 phases. So I just don't understand what he has to do to get more involved in the passing game. Like, it's beyond my own comprehension. Like, what else does he have to do to get more involved in the passing game? And I've talked about this on prior streams too. Like, I want him to get 30 touches a game, and if it's 15 rushes and 15 catches, then I'm fine with that. 15 targets, like that's how I think you get him more involved in the passing game, and you give him a ton of production, but skew more of it in the passing game because there's less wear and tear on a player when you get him the football out of the passing game relative to the running game. A yard reception is not equal to a 1-yard run. Each yard of production in catching the football is not equal to each yard of production in rushing the football. There's a greater wear and tear rushing the football than there is catching the ball out of the backfield. All right, let's see here. Marshall Young in the house says can't run when the O-line is getting a push. I'm assuming you're saying can't run when the O-line isn't getting a push, but we need to feed him early and often. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why they only ran the football 15 times because, they were stacking the box. And so the Cowboys' game plan against a stacked box like that was to get the ball out quickly. And the problem with that is Luke Kuechly's so good in the intermediate area of the field that even when they try to get screens and, I mean, my goodness, they did a jet sweep with Tavon Austin, and it was like the most obvious play. Like, everybody saw that coming. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm watching the game with Jesse Holly, who's my co-host on the pre- and post-game show, and he's like, here comes a jet sweep to Tavon. Like, it's just mind-boggling because he was split outside wide, and then they motioned him into the slot. It's like, okay, you know what he's going to do there. Like, you motioned him there because you're going to give him a jet sweep. It's crazy. All right, what else we got? Again, I'm here all week at the Irishman Pub. We're out at Preston and Frankfurt. Come hang out. Great food. An unbelievable lunch spot. To see a bar in the middle of the day this full of people eating just shows you how good of a restaurant this place is. So come hang out. Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt. And again, click on the link in the description. You're going to get half off appetizers while I'm broadcasting live. So make sure to make plans to be out here. Plus, they have over 30 beers on tap, fantastic selection, great food. And they also, if you're a soccer fan, they've got the Tottenham Hotspurs games here. They got an unbelievable crowd. I think there's a game Saturday at 6:30 in the morning. Tottenham has a game. It's Saturday, 6:30 in the morning. So if you want to see a really cool crowd, like a really cool EPL crowd, then come hang out here. In fact, I might tell my father-in-law to come out here on Saturday at 6:30 in the morning. Maybe I'll come out here with him to see the Tottenham Hotspurs game. He says no chance. 6:30 in the morning. They have games a little bit later. I might have to make it out for that. All right. I want to thank everybody for being a part of today's show. I want to thank all you folks that are a part of the show every single day. Tim Hasty, Wade Zetterberg, Eric Kashani, Kerry Teagle, Ian Goldberg, Dana Braining, Andy Caius, Cody Arnold, Curtis Starks, Neil Fawver. Who am I missing? Starting JP Trimmer, Ryan Ariano, starting to see more and more people become daily streamers every single day. So thank you to those that join this stream every single day. I really, truly appreciate your being a part of this every single day. And if this is your first time watching, well, come on back and become a regular. And if you're starting to become a regular, well, then soon enough I'll remember your name, and then you'll be part of the end of show credits. Again, shout out to the Irishman Pub. Come out here at Preston and Frankfurt. Over 30 taps on hand, and if you do come out here, make sure to mention Phantom, and you heard about it on Phantom, because we love that. So again, I'm Ari Temkin. We'll be back here tomorrow. Make plans to be with us again, 12 to 1 tomorrow at the Irishman Pub at Preston and Frankfurt Road, right here in Dallas. Come talk Cowboys with me. Come eat great food tomorrow and the rest of this week right here. Showtime, broadcasting live, 12 to 1. Wherever you're watching this, broadcasting live every single day on those exact pages. So for now, I'm out. Peace.